and seeing how they live.
Oh yeah, that was good.
I think it was beautiful.
I loved it.
I really like it. Well, I guess it's just the fact that a lot of people used to live here and do a bunch of different things.
Or a musket. Because we already have a sword in our room.
That's true. So the musket. I would bring home the musket.
I like how the soldiers struggled, did their jobs, and lived.
Yeah, struggle, their family, battles, camaraderie, stuff like that. Because they didn't lay out the boundaries, so they could just take whatever land they wanted. And this was originally the First Nation land, so you can't just say, oh, I want this, and then you take it without giving the person you're taking from something else. It has to be give and take. You can't just give. You can't just take. There was a language barrier and a culture barrier. I'm sure it varied between different communities. I'm sure some of them were okay with what the British people did, but then I'm sure a lot of them were outraged on the fact that their land's being taken. I don't believe segregation is morally right because we're all human, and the fact that they tasked them with more laborious jobs and carrying a lot more heavy things was wrong. So I don't really agree with the colored folks.
And again, what he said.
I think Richard wanted unity, but it ended up being used as a tool for segregation. I guess since he was a former slave and what like the Americans were capable of doing, I guess he wanted them to not invade his country and do the same thing that they did to the people in their land.
Revenge.
Yeah, probably maybe a bit of revenge. Maybe it was just completely fueled by revenge. I feel like all soldiers who go through their terms should be honored in a way. Maybe not individually, but more as a whole. Maybe their branch, or if they died heroically in battle, they could be honored on like a mass grave. And they definitely should be compensated because work without compensation is basically slave work. And not only can this kill you, but if you do come back, you're gonna come not only physically but also mentally scarred.
Honored. Because they're heroic to fight in the war.
Maybe because the public won't like the truth, or governments don't want to make themselves look bad. Like, you're not gonna see a country say proudly, oh, we massacred this small town of 100 people for ammunition, for example.
That's
Because even me, I did not know that there were like a plethora of a bunch of different First Nations fighting in the war. I thought that there would maybe be a small handful, but I guess they didn't teach me that in history class, that there was a lot of First Nations soldiers that fought for the country. So no, they definitely were not honored. The British people didn't view them as, maybe not their equal.
The Americans stole stuff out of spite.
I think that it was mostly spite, because if you find something an easy target, I guess it's because you either view them as weak, or you view them as someone that's teamed up with someone that is weak. The worst thing you could take from someone is like their pride, or their honor, or their family. The thing that makes someone human.
My family, and mostly my little sister. I love her so much. She's so cute. Little. And she looks up to me and like wants to be around me and play with me. Like no wars, no like fighting. Just free.
I don't believe that a true freedom exists, because if someone were to be truly free, then we could do whatever we wanted. If we were truly free, then there would be other people that would have freedom to take our freedom. So we need a mixture of freedom and security, but the highest amount of freedom to me would be where I could like criticize anyone and wouldn't be able to be like arrested for it, or I would be allowed to do whatever job I wanted regardless of where I was born or where I'm from or what gender I am. there are definitely other countries out there where you barely have any freedom, and authority controls you. I don't think that there's any country in the world that doesn't have discrimination. There are some countries that even now they still have like a lot of discrimination, and here it's definitely a lot less. You're not going to see someone having their job taken away, for example, just for the fact that like who they are. I'm sure that could be a factor, but there's definitely going to be like a reason or maybe an excuse on something like that. But I do believe that there is a lot of like systemic discrimination that goes back hundreds of years, but I feel like individual racism is definitely less than it is, or like not just racism, like sexism, anything like that is more so systemic than like face to face. The only way to fix systemic like discrimination will be to like fix the system itself, and that's so incredibly hard because you need to reform the way not only society thinks, but you also need to reform the way that society actually is. And I don't think one person by themselves can do that. So I guess maybe like a revolution, but like a cultural revolution, not a violent one.
Maybe possible, but it's hard.
But now with like the invention of the internet and social media, we can share things a lot easier, and like different ideas are born in different people, and a lot of people can share those ideas.
I would try to change the people, the poor, to like make them feel like they're welcomed and better, like feel nice about themselves. By like trying to be nice and welcoming them, and trying to make them forget about like the hard stuff they've been through. I don't know. I just don't like poor people being sad. Makes me sad.
I would change the infrastructure in a lot of like poor areas. Like if you compare here to, for example, like Jane Street near the area, you can definitely tell that there's a difference. Even going there, it feels like there's not as much life or happiness as there is here. And I guess that's because if you look at places like this, you see a lot more things that are more expensive, healthier, and then you go there and there's like McDonald's and a bunch of unhealthy stuff. I would try to make things healthy and things that make people happy, but I wouldn't put them at such an expensive price. And I would make the education system better so that they could also have good areas to study, so then they can escape from that poverty. And when they teach you in like a collective group, they're not trying to cater to what you would like or what your needs are. They just go to a curriculum and they say, hey, everyone, listen to me and listen to what I'm going to do, then I'm going to do that for you.
A general, because he's very smart. Like, smartest person I've met.
Really? I go from the beginning. So, frontline, or medic. No, I'm definitely not going to let you be a medic because you're definitely going to get traumatized from having people seeing their arms blown off.
Yep.
And it's very hard to, like, fix someone's arm while there's bullets flying above you. So, you'd probably crack under pressure. So, no, I don't think that's suitable for you. Frontline soldier? No.
He scared my I would poop my pants.
It's very hard to live.
I do make breakfast
You do
and
like
lunch.
to cook.
Yeah.
And I don't think you would like being in hot weather while bullets are like shooting over you and you're holding an instrument and you're playing it and you lose your breath. I think you'd be a good cook. Yeah. I cook.
I love this place
Me
so
too. I like
much.
this place. The fact that you're at a place where people 200 years ago
And I also feel home for some reason. It's very cool learning about the past and what people did.
Not only is it cool to like see how people used to live before you were born or before anyone you know was born, but I heard this one quote that says that people who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. And I guess it's important to teach the young generation about history. If they don't know about history, we wouldn't know how to prevent it or how to stop it, and we'd have to start all over again.
Yeah, I've also heard that from the show Nicky Ricky Dicky and Don. Remember that?